You're going to love this interview. Just got done editing it. I'm glad I got it live for you. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes hanging out, answering any questions you have. In fact, leave a comment below about data points or what you think is going to happen to the company, and I will respond to every comment. Additionally, if you're just loving the content, click the thumbs up and I will go and check out your profile as well and give your videos some love as well. In the meantime, enjoy the interview. Hello, everyone. My guest today is Ryan Kulp. He's a marketer and self-taught developer, best known as founder of Fomo.com. He and his wife buy and grow small companies together at their micro private equity fund called Fork Equity. Ryan's been traveling full-time for 2 years and writes a data-driven travel blog at rickshawlabs.com. All right, Ryan, you ready to take us to the top?
Let's do it.
All right, so you or the wife, who owns more equity in the private equity fund? Who gets more carry?
So we actually did 50-50, like the thing you're not supposed to ever do with an LLC. But we also did a will. So we have some like if she dies, I get it all.
Got it.
Otherwise, it's shared.
That's fair. Okay. So take us back to the beginning of this. So I consider you kind of just a hustler and you happen to be in B2B SaaS. And those are all obviously good things. What kind of got you into this in general? Maybe start with, did you launch your own SaaS company back in the day?
Back in the day, I was a musician, and then I got into marketing at a Techstars company, and that kind of just got me in the circle. So I started freelancing, I started doing agencies, I worked in venture capital, but always doing marketing, always on B2B products. And getting into ownership was just sort of like, innately I wanted to be an owner one day. I tried and failed multiple times with ventures and starting from scratch. And then finally, a mix of two things happened. First was learning to program, which I'm still obviously doing. We're learning every day. And the second half of that was being in the right place at the right time, aka being lucky, and having the opportunity to acquire a product that was already working. And putting those two together in the last few years, I've been able to achieve more or find my groove more than all the years before it, when I was on the employee side of the table, starting things from scratch and not being able to program.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the tech marketing at the Techstars company. What year was that and which company?
This was 2013, January 1st. I joined a company called Shuttle Cloud. They're still around. They moved kind of to the enterprise. So I didn't think my marketing marketing doesn't make a dent in enterprise software. So I left that company and then jumped to a YC company called Keychain Logistics. That was
what year?
San Francisco. That was 2014.
Okay.
Moved back to 2014, 15 to New York, started a marketing agency called Sprinkle Labs.
Yep.
We did a mix of, product marketing, kind of whatever. When you're an agency, you just do whatever people are paid to do, to be honest. People always say we're super focused on copywriting. It's no, you don't. You probably set up Google Analytics for people if they ask, right? And then I moved back to San Francisco in 2015 to work in venture capital. While in venture capital, discovered
which firm?
Notify, growthx.com. And then moved back to New York City in 2017.
Okay, so 2017 moved to New York City. Sorry, what was the company you discovered at GrowthX?
Notify, and it was notifyapp.io, and it was a Shopify app that showed recent orders. We then took that, rebuilt it, and turned it into what's Fomo today.
Okay, so explain to me the cap table of Fomo. It was a GrowthX company that was struggling that you bought it and kind of rescued, or how did that all work?
So I was doing the typical VC thing, just reaching out to cool companies around town that I thought might want to take investment. And the founder said, no, actually, I'm not looking to raise, I'm looking to sell. I mentioned that to my buddy, Justin Mayers, just kind of in passing sometime that week,
Traction, Justin Mayers?
Yeah, Traction, Justin Mayers.
Yep.
And he said, well, we should buy it. So together we bought it. I mentioned this to the fund and they were interested in buying it as well. And then kind of having me run it and be an employee at the fund, but couldn't figure out the numbers to make it really interesting. So just bought it as a side project, kept working full-time at the fund, and eventually went full-time at Fomo.
So, what did you pay for Notify app back in the day?
Can I say or not?
You can give me a range so you don't break any NDAs or anything. What's a range?
Yeah, 6 figures, under $1 million.
Fair enough. Okay, got it.
And we did it with seller-side financing, which is a magic trick for all those who haven't tried it yet.
Tell us how that works.
Sure. So seller-side financing, it's financing, which means you don't have all the cash up front. You pay it off over time, except the financing, quote unquote, isn't cash injection that you receive from like a bank with an interest rate. It's like a loan of equity that you receive directly from the seller. So if you're going to buy a company for $100,000 and you get seller side financing, maybe you pay them $10,000 a month for 10 months. But if it makes $10,000 a month and you don't have an interest rate, well, in 10 months, the business is yours for essentially just your sweat, as long as you kept it humming and didn't blow it up. So we did a structure like that, without interest, without outside financiers. The monthly payments were similar to the revenue. We were able to grow it just above board of our monthly service payments. And then we introduced a clawback provision such that if 2 months went by and we didn't make payments, the seller would get 100% of the company back. And we did this for two reasons. A, we were young and fresh and like didn't have a
How old are you?
record. Oh, well, I suppose I was 26, but by young, I mean, no track record, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like saying, hey, you'll get the whole company back if we screw up at all was awesome, because they would keep all the money, have someone like running it for free and then get it back. But the second reason we did the clawback was because we wanted 100% equity on day one. So I didn't want it to be like a mortgage or like every month I own 3% more of my house or something. I wanted 100% of it right now, so we can make all the decisions, not have the original seller have like voting rights or be on a board or anything like that. So we get 100% now and you get 100% later if we screw up. And obviously we didn't screw up. So
yep. Well, if there was a time when for whatever reason revenue dipped or something, you could pull into your personal finance and cover it if you still believe in the product.
Yes. And actually that happened once, not because the product wasn't growing. We were just developing, putting a lot into product. I think we each put in, Justin and I put in like $1,500 one time, maybe month 4, month 7, because we barely overspent on dev. So kind of silly, kind of a joke. And then when we wanted to rebrand it and rebuild it from scratch as Fomo, well, that's a lot more than like maintenance work for dev. We needed, let's say, $50,000 to build that new MVP. So what did we do? We just got a Chase credit card, 12 months, 0% APR interest. And I think we put like 70 or 80 G's on that card. And then like month 10 of the accrual, we paid that off in full. So again, paid no interest and essentially did like a $80,000 raise with no interest in addition to the seller side financing.
What did you provide Chase that enabled them to basically approve you for, no interest, $80,000 on a credit card?
That's a good question. I mean, we both had jobs and salaries. Like I think my venture salary was well into 6 figures at the time. So that combined with like history, although I didn't have a Chase account already, I wasn't banking with them personally. But yeah, it was like, I think we got approved for $90,000 on day one for the Chase like Inc. card. And
so was it like, it was probably no interest for first 12 months, but then it was like ridiculous interest after month 12?
Either 16, 18, 20, 22, something like that. And
it's actually not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, it would have. Yeah, I mean, look, if you paid off month 14 and then you pay $8,000, the difference between not getting any dollars and paying $8,000 above is nothing.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So you did this back in the Notify app. How did you know that Notify app was the right one to go after? I mean, you talked to hundreds of companies.
I can't say I really knew, right? I had conviction, but that's not the same as knowledge. As a marketer, I looked at Notify and thought, this is a cool tool, right? That's like what marketers love to find, cool tools. And I looked at it, and when I saw it in action on a website, serendipitously, I thought to myself, what is that? I have to know. And that conviction, like that moment of being a marketer and being magnetized towards it, I just had a conviction that thousands of other marketers would feel similarly. And then you get to know the seller and you find out, well, they have like this many customers, not the thousands I think they could have. And then you calculate like the value of that gap and our propensity to get it there. So
how many customers did the company have when you guys bought it?
Maybe between 800 and 1,000. Like a lot, but they were paying like $4 a month, $7 a month, $8 a month. Yep.
But $4 a month was the minimum.
Something like that. And there's probably people on like legacy lifetime free plans that I don't know about. I just don't run enough SQL.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to quantify this. This thing was doing less than $10,000 a month in revenue when you bought it.
No, it was actually around $15,000.
Oh, wow.
No, it was, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it was a real business. It was run by one person and he had a full-time job and he didn't want to go full-time on it. And so those were all decisions he had made before we spoke, which made it really serendipitous timing. He had thought about, should I quit my job? He had thought about, should I hire people? And he said, no. but he was also killing himself till 2 a.m. every night to keep it humming. So it made a lot of sense. And again, the timing was right.
Yep. Yes. I mean, some like good lessons I want to pull out here for a second. There's a lot of either buyers or founders or sellers, any side of this equation that mix up, deal price and terms. They're two very different things. Ryan just gave a great example of how these are very different. I mean, I'm going to make an assumption here and we'll watch Ryan's face to judge it. He basically took over a company doing, call it $180,000 in ARR for essentially $3K that they had to put in one down month because they were investing extra. The rest, they basically paid the deal price off from profits. That was somewhere between $100,000 and $1 million for the first 12 months. Ryan, basically correct, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So again, difference between, hey, listen, we'll buy your company for, I don't know what this one is, but we'll buy your company, say, for 300 grand. But again, the payments are going to be structured in a way where it's actually very low risk to buyers, Ryan and Justin. It's a great way to obviously structure these deals. I'm surprised that, I guess the founder agreed to this because he had a full-time gig. So this wasn't his full-time thing and it was killing him. He was losing sleep and killing him.
Exactly. And that's why actually we named our fund Fork Equity. And our tagline is painless exits for founders at a fork in the road. Because I think when you hit 10 to 20 MRR as a solo founder, like A, you're crushing it, quote unquote. And by definition, you're in the top 1% earners. But B, you're at this inflection point where like to double again to 30 MRR, you kind of need employees or you need to be like a total whiz with systems, low touch, automation, everything. Most people need to go the employee route. But once you're at 15 MRR and you hire even a couple part-time developer support, now you're down to like 5 MRR take home. And so it's this hedonic treadmill of like, you need to get to 25 or 30 MRR with employees to make the same amount of money as 10 MRR alone. And most founders just like, screw that. Like they see that.
And then God help you if you end up raising capital and there's a liquidation preference you have to get out from under, right?
Yeah, or you hire full-time people and then you don't grow. And now it's like you're stuck at 18 MRR with 2 employees. And previously, 3 months ago, you were murdering it, just doing it alone. So I think that's a big risk and I understand why founders don't want to take it. But with us, because we can get some economies of scale, having a shared team, a centralized team of developers, marketers, and so on, it's like not a big deal to tag on a business at 10 MRR. We can inject 3K worth of development and support and design and everything because everything kind of a la carte from our core team.
Yeah. Okay. So fast forward today, what is it? You did this in 2015. So we're 5 years later. I assume you basically changed everything, right? What's kind of average price point today? I assume it's not $4 still.
No. So we've experimented. We've raised prices a few times. I think 2 of those 3 price raises, we did it on Black Friday, kind of to troll, but also because we blow up on Black Friday. So Shopify has named us the #1 Black Friday app. Our installs go through the roof. So raising prices makes a lot of sense. But over the years, we've attracted like down market and up market. So huge companies will use Fomo, but then really small mom and pops want to use it for their like mechanic business too. So our pricing now ranges. We have maybe 25, 30 plans from $19 a month, which is our new starter plan. We launched that recently, up to around $2,000 a month. And that would be a little more enterprisey, which is still very low for enterprise.
Okay.
But yeah, it's all based on notification volume, and notification volume is sort of a proxy for site traffic.
Yep.
So
So you upsell based off notification volume. There's a big range there, $19 a month up to $2,000 a month. Give me a sense. Someone paying $2,000 a month. How many notifications is that?
Tens of millions.
Okay.
And most page views are going to see 1 to 5. So 30 million notifications a month maybe that means you get 5 million page views a month. Yep. If you're an e-commerce store with 5 million page views a month, like you're doing something right, and it's worth it.
Yep. The marginal increase in conversion percentage when they see the FOMO pop up is worth way more than the 2K per month.
Oh yeah, and we actually recently published. We kind of queried like top accounts by their sales volume because we allow them to connect GA. We show the click-through conversions based on UTM params, blah blah blah. And there are sites that are. We anonymize all the screenshots, but you can check them out on our blog. There are sites that are paying like $79 and their click-through conversions are like 15 grand a month, right? Mm-hmm. So like the ROI for the right customer is tremendous. And
15 grand higher than without FOMO?
So 15 grand click-through on FOMO notifications.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. So, and most of these kinds of customers, they run their own FOMO, no FOMO A/B test during setup, and we have guides to do that. Once you're live, it's hard to know like, you can't A/B is to let you can't A/B test macroeconomics.
Okay, so from $4 a month now, 19 to $2,000 a month over 30 plans, 800 customers back in 2015 when you bought it. How many customers today?
5,000, 5,500. Yeah,
okay.
There's a few hundred that are on a lifetime deal. So I don't know if you want to count those.
Did you do that with AppSumo?
Long story, almost. We did it with a similar competitor to AppSumo.
What, you didn't want to give up 70% of the revenue?
No, it wasn't that. I tweeted about it the other day, but yeah, we just couldn't.
I think it's a terrible model, by the way. I think selling lifetime plans in a SaaS business is potentially the dumbest thing you can do unless you're just totally broke and you're trying to fund some development.
So I'll tell you why we did it. Two reasons. One, we had just launched an ad network, which is a totally new product. And we were giving all new users like $10 credit to spend in the ad network. But of course, to activate the credit, you have to add your credit card, and we start rollover billing, just like Google Ads. So the opportunity to give hundreds of people credits was really appealing. And the fact that we could get paid by people to give them a new product was appealing. And then secondly, we wanted to raise money, not for development though. We wanted to go on like a crazy team retreat. So that's what we did. We rented a yacht. We raced in the Barcelona 50 in the Adriatic Sea. And we just kind of lived it up in Italy, Slovenia, Croatia.
What'd that cost? How much?
I don't know, 28 grand, something like that, which is not that bad. We're not a big team, but totally worth it.
How many people are on the team today?
Now there are, maybe only 5 full-time, 3 part-time. That's on Fomo. On the Fork team, there's probably like 10 people total.
Okay. Fork team 10. Got it. We'll get to Fork here in a second. Just wrapping up the story here on Notify up to Fomo, 5 full-time, 3 part-time. How many engineers?
Everyone's an engineer.
Okay. All 5.
Yeah, even the designer. He actually, we've worked with him a couple years, and a few months ago, he was like, by the way, I'm not a designer, I'm a front-end engineer, but when you guys hire me, you said you want a designer, so that's why I do this. I was like, my brain exploded. But he's a great designer and engineer.
I love that. Okay, and then give me a general sense here today on size, right? Minimum 5,000 folks at $20 puts you at 100 grand a month, but you could be obviously way bigger than that if you have a bunch of enterprise accounts. Can you give us a range in terms of where you're at run rate wise?
It's just below 100. Our best month, we did 154. That was with the lifetime deal. Our best recurring only revenue month was like 111. Okay. And now we're between 90 and 100. The reason for that simple math is we did have a lot of $15 customers that we never upgraded when we took it over and for the first several months. And we also do 30% off for annual plans.
Okay.
So quite a discount.
So 90,000, like last month, basically 90,000 just in recurring revenue. Ignore the ad network, everything else, just SaaS revenue. And what was that exactly a year ago?
Let's see. I got it right here. Unhide sales. A year ago, that was a year ago that was 97.
Okay, got it. So that part of business is basically flat to declining, the SaaS side.
Yes. So the revenue at Fomo has been flat for a while, but our team was 12 people full time at this time last year.
So you're more profitable.
Our profits, which I've decided that's just so much more important.
Yeah, it is. It is. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You're bootstrapped, right? The company hasn't raised money. It's your own money.
Right, correct. And the other thing is we're spending less time on it. So we've got half the team, and even the team we have is spending like half their time on it because they're working on Fork's other portfolio projects. Yep. And so I think some of the dip is because we are spreading ourselves a little thin, but the master plan, the method to the madness is that we're ultimately growing a much more special portfolio in the process. If
you add the entire Fork portfolio together today, maybe look at last month, what percent of revenue does Fomo account for? Is it like less than 10% or more like 50% or something else?
It's 67% or so. It's around 2/3.
Okay, got it. So you're doing total, your whole portfolio right now, somewhere call it 160 top line, $160,000 a month in top line revenue.
That's right. We're around around 1.5, 1.6 a year.
Yep. That's good. But again, what I love about this is you're optimizing for profit. So you can do things like fun team vacations in Chile or in the Adriatic Sea.
Yeah, exactly. And trying to buy more companies, so we launched this course because people kept asking us, but now this course has become its own portfolio project that makes 7-8K a month. And we don't do anything, like someone says, can you give me the spreadsheet template? That's our support. There's no bugs. There's no sales. There's no And so now courses are like becoming a part of our portfolio. We're going to do one on learning to code. We've done one on like how to do an LBO model because people are trying to understand, wrap their head around financing. So yeah, our thesis has kind of grown from like Shopify B2B SaaS apps, which I love and I understand completely. But now it's kind of like, well, info, SaaS, sure. All of it's really, really interesting if you do it right with the right team. And so we're kind of going horizontal now, and then the rising tide raises all ships kind of process.
When my team looked at your Ahrefs account to see what kind of paid ads you are running, you're running a lot against Proof, which makes a lot of sense. You're both in the same market. How do you think about those guys?
So regarding our ads, kind of to troll, because in the early days, Proof did a lot of IP infringement against us. So we've invested a lot in copyrights, trademarks. We have a pending patent, and Proof like copy pasted our entire terms of service, word for word. And I've actually never said any of this publicly, which I don't mind talking about it. But yeah, so it's kind of obnoxious that they don't have integrity and character. And but otherwise, I think it's just like the age of the cockroach. That's one of our designs on our blog. It's this guy reading a newspaper, and there's a unicorn, and it's got a strike through. It's like F unicorns. It's the age of the cockroach. It's all about living and surviving. And I think because we don't have a board and we don't have people who can tell us what to do or regulate our salaries or whatever, unlike Proof, who does have all of that, we're just going to keep going. And because we have these other projects, we're going to keep fueling it. I think Proof's definitely cut into what could have been some of our market share, but they've also injected a lot of capital into educating the market about this type of technology. And that's been positive. So it's like, we've got a lot of Proof customers, ex-Proof customers. When we tried to find it the other way around, like disenfranchised Fomo people went to them, we didn't find it. And this was like by crawling thousands of websites who canceled and looking for script tags, we didn't.
JavaScript.
So, yeah, just looking at the JavaScript. And so I think it's a net good that Proof exists, that any of our competitors exist. Can't say it's not a little annoying. We were the first to market and the only in the market. And now there's like 35 of us. So super proud of our team, product, positioning, et cetera. But definitely, I think we're reaching a point where it's like the competitor landscape is growing a little faster than the addressable market is growing, which is, again, another good reason to hedge a bit and have this portfolio.
I'm trying to think if I was in Proof's shoes early on and I was like, didn't have a lot of money, if I would have done the same thing and copied your terms of service and your EULA to save for my own legal fees. And Ryan, I couldn't tell you with a straight face that I wouldn't do exactly the same thing. Was there other things they did that was more disingenuous?
Oh yeah. So actually, I've mentioned this once to someone. I sent like an open public letter outlining several of the things they did that were infringing upon one or another of our bits of IP. Some of the other things they've done are like made advertised promotional videos with our customers in it, and then put tens of thousands on Facebook ads to promoting these videos. And if you watch the video, it's talking about Proof, but in the video is our customers with our product. That's, I think,
got
weird.
it.
But regarding your point, like I appreciate you being honest that maybe you would have done the same thing, but also you're super smart and you know that you could just Google like free terms of service generator and you don't have to pay anything to get a good terms of service. Yeah. So it's actually like lazier and weirder and kind of more malicious to copy and paste ours than to just go to like the free WordPress.org open source edition.
I'm like, when my audience listens to this, they're all going to cringe because I guarantee you the majority of them copied their EULA from somebody else. Now, they did do it directly from a competitor. That's a different story, but they probably definitely used a template because no one wants to pay lawyers.
Yeah, no one wants to pay lawyers. I mean, we paid lawyers, but I understand no one wants to pay lawyers. And there's generators out there,
What'd you pay for Fomo.com, the URL? That's a hell of a domain name. Give me the story.
Publicly. I guess I could say this. This could be like our reveal. Our coming
You're
out
right.
Party could be
You
on
can
podcast.
Come out. Do it now.
Okay. Here's how much we paid for it. We paid $105,000.
Okay. You paid more for you paid more for the domain name than you paid cash out of your pocket for the company.
Yeah, if you put it like that. Yes. which is a sign of spiritual growth. Okay. We put our stake in the ground. Yeah, so we bought the domain. It was a long process, as these kinds of deals often are. When we started Fomo in 2016, we bought usefomo.com. We're looking at try, use, get, whatever. Went with use, $10, and kind of just sat on the idea of owning Fomo because it had a very viable business on it. It was like a spray foam for construction workers company. Since the 90s, they'd owned the domain, a lot of authority for their keywords. But nonetheless, every month or two, I would look them up on LinkedIn and I would go to their website and their press relations and see what's new and contact like different emails, IT at whatever. Never got a reply ever. But again, I did this every month or two. So finally in the spring of 2018, I'm going to their site, business as usual, click, click, click. And I see that they've just been acquired by a PE fund. Like, that's interesting. Another few weeks later, I go back, I check in on, I think, LinkedIn News, and the PE fund made like the dumbest decision ever. They rebranded the company from Fomo, which is obviously a badass name, the most badass name. They rebranded it to like something interactive adhesives, something like that. ICP adhesives. It was like, okay, so are they going to get a new site? So I start guessing around like icpadhesives.com, and I start going to these URLs. And what does it do? It forwards to fomo.com. So I'm like, okay, so they're probably in the process of forwarding these domains. So then I reach out to them again. I get connected to someone who handled their IT, like an outsourced firm. And they were very friendly, and they definitely had their client in mind. They advocated for the client, not for me, but they were able to broker going back and forth. And we got the deal done very quickly. We paid cash, and then sent that guy a watch and some wine just to say a small thanks. But
that's very cool.
Yeah,
and what year was that? When did you buy it?
I think we closed the deal in June or July 2018.
Okay, 2018. I love that. All right, I just realized you and I could talk forever because we're of the same sort of blood. But real quick here, going over to Fork for a second, are you plowing your own money back into this, or did you actually go out and put a little fund together, raise from LPs, your friends, you're deploying capital from them, paying them back, things like that, or no?
We've done a few deals with sort of friends and family capital where it's like, hey, here's the deal we have. Do you want 10%, 20%, 30%? And people have put in capital. That's sort of just for the fun of it. I kind of like having a little bit of pressure and accountability and people that I need to send reports to and grow a company on behalf of. But otherwise, everything we've done has been with our own capital, through financing, through, the leverage we have from existing revenue centers.
Do you use debt ever?
We actually used debt to buy the Fomo.com domain. So we had the cash in the bank at the time, but I wanted to hire some new employees. I hired a marketer, I hired a sales biz dev person, and I didn't want to blow it all on this .com. That was definitely just for vanity purposes. So we did a debt for like 10%, 105K, paid it off in 10 months, 12 months.
Who gave you the debt?
Just some buddies. Yeah, so I sent an email So Fork has sort of like a high net worth individual BCC list. And every month or two when we have a deal or an opportunity, it could be for an acquisition, it could be for something like this, buying a domain. We just ping this list and say, hey, here's the opportunity. Here's like what we want to propose as terms. And people reply back, hey, I'm interested, I'm in. We've already vetted them before they get on this list. And that's how we were able to get that done in like probably 24 hours.
Last question. Are you always a buy and hold, or would you sell portfolio companies if the right offer came along?
Happy to sell. We're very interested in, for example, there's big exit opportunities with companies like Tiny Capital and their new subsidiary WeCommerce, specifically for Shopify apps. But we're structuring them such that, hopefully the revenues at least stay flat or go up and the costs go down. So I'm happy to hold forever. Can't really say we have a either or strategy right now. It's just make them as profitable as possible. That's going to secure the best valuation for an exit. It's also makes it the most interesting type of lifestyle business to hold.
Yeah. So for a Notify app, you essentially paid something like 1x of the EBITDA you generated from it over the first 12 months. If someone came and offered you the equivalent of whatever 3x the EBITDA margin is right now on Fomo, would you sell for that price, all cash up front?
Probably not, because I think some of the capital we've expended that is now not in our EBITDA is just an asset transfer. So I think some of our IP has value. I think the Fomo.com domain has a lot more value than the 105K we paid for it. So yeah. I think the right buyer kind of would be willing to itemize to some degree. Here's the EBITDA, here's the multiple on that. Here's your 50 trademarks and copyrights, and here's your domain. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And I think that's going to add at least another, 1 million, whatever, to the final valuation.
Yeah. So if your mortal enemy Proof came along and offered you $4 million to buy the whole company, do you sell it or no?
Maybe if we got to throw their code in the trash and migrate all of their customers to our platform, but I would never work on another platform because the other ones aren't even close. So
yeah. I love that. All right. Let's wrap up here with the famous five. Number one, favorite business book.
Innovator's Dilemma.
Number two, is there a CEO you're following or studying? You can say none, by the way.
No, there's none.
Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building your company or your portfolio of companies, really?
Definitely Trello. We use it to manage everything, get everything done.
Number 4, how many hours of sleep you get every night?
It varies from 4 to 10.
I was about to say, last night you told me you had tear gas in your eyes because you're down in Chile. I assume you got very little sleep with tear gas burning your eyeballs.
Yeah, we're trying to reset it earlier now because the government curfew is 10 p.m. But typically I go to bed around 4 a.m. so that I'm in touch with my team around the world.
That's interesting. Okay. And what's your situation? Married, single, kiddos?
Married with no kids.
And how old are you?
I'm 29.
29. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
How to code.
Guys, there you have it. Ryan Kulp started back in 2013 at a Techstars company, left in 2014 to join a YC company. 2015, went to New York City, launched an agency, then joined a company, a VC firm called GrowthX in 2015, found a cool app called NotifyApp.io, doing about 15 grand a month in revenue at the time. He basically bought it for 1x, call it EBITDA multiple on the first year revenue, somewhere between $100,000 and $1 million, but only had to put in about 3 grand of his own cash to do it. The rest, again, paid for it over time, seller financing. From there, 2015 or 2020 now, the company is doing, call it 5,000 customers on the program, paying between 19 and 2 grand per month. Overall, the business is doing, call it $90,000 a month in SaaS revenue purely. It's about flat. This one company makes up about 60% of the total Fork team portfolio companies, which is essentially the entity Ryan has set up to buy other SaaS companies as he looks to scale and focus on something I love, profits. Ryan, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thanks for having me, Nitha.
You guys know I fight like heck to get these data points for you from these CEOs that rarely do these kinds of shows. If you want more shows like this, make sure you subscribe right now. We're trying to get 10,000 YouTube subscribers by the end of September here, 2019. And it would mean the world to me if you clicked now to subscribe. Additionally, I've got 2 more great interviews for you. If you want more data points from the world's leading SaaS CEOs, click and watch one of them right now.